It started as just another chilly afternoon in a small suburban town, the kind of day where most teenagers were either scrolling through their phones or hanging out with friends. But for four high school students, Emma, Jaden, Mia, and Lucas, this day was about to change everything, not only for them but for countless people across the country. What began as a simple idea for a school project would soon turn into a nationwide ripple of kindness, inspiring millions and proving that the power to make a difference doesn't depend on age or money, but on heart. Emma had always been the thoughtful one of the group. She spent her lunch breaks tutoring younger students and often volunteered at the local food pantry. One day, while brainstorming ideas for their school, community impact project, she looked around at her friends and said, "What if we do something that's not just for a grade, but something that actually matters?" Her friends leaned in, curious. "Something small but real," she added. Jaden, who loved making videos, smirked and said, "You mean like one of those viral challenges online?" Mia rolled her eyes. "Not everything has to be for TikTok." But Emma shook her head. "Actually, maybe that's the point. What if we used social media for good?" That one thought set everything in motion. The group decided to do a series of small acts of kindness around their town and record them, not to get attention, but to encourage others to do the same. They didn't plan anything fancy or expensive. Their budget was practically nothing, and they didn't have sponsors or support. What they had was creativity, empathy, and a shared goal, to prove that kindness could spread faster than negativity online. Their first act was simple. They visited a local coffee shop after school and paid for the next customer's drink. The barista smiled and said, "That's sweet, kids, but you know that won't go viral." Emma smiled back and said, "Maybe not, but it might make someone's day." Jaden captured the moment quietly, no flashy editing or music, just the raw reaction of the person who received the unexpected kindness. The next day, they took it a little further. They left sticky notes with encouraging messages all around town, on lockers, bus stops, and even parked cars. "You matter," one said. "Keep going," said another. Lucas, who had been skeptical at first, found himself getting emotional as he watched strangers' faces light up when they found the notes. "It's crazy," he said softly. "Something so small can actually change someone's mood." They posted their videos online under the tag, Ripple Kindness. At first, nothing happened. A few friends liked and shared their posts, but it didn't go far. Still, the teenagers didn't stop. Every week, they came up with new ideas, collecting used coats for the homeless, writing appreciation letters to teachers, helping an elderly neighbor fix her fence, and organizing a free car wash where they refused to take donations, asking people instead to pay it forward. Then something unexpected happened. One of their videos, where they surprised a school janitor with a thank you gift and a heartfelt message, started gaining traction. In the clip, the janitor, Mr. Jenkins, teared up as he read their card. "You kids have no idea how much this means," he said. "Most people just walk past me every day like I don't exist." The raw emotion in his voice touched hearts everywhere. Within days, the video exploded online, reaching hundreds of thousands of views. Comments poured in. "This made my day. I'm crying right now. We need more teens like this." Soon, news outlets began reaching out to the group. Reporters called them the Kindness Crew. They were invited on local talk shows, and their story was shared on national news. What made it special wasn't the scale of their actions, but the sincerity behind them. They weren't influencers or celebrities. They were just teenagers who decided to care. But fame wasn't what they were after. When one sponsor offered to pay them for promotions, Emma politely declined. "We don't want money," she said. "We want impact." Instead, they asked the sponsor to donate to a youth shelter. Their honesty only deepened people's admiration. Across the country, other teenagers started joining in. High schools from different states began their own Ripple Kindness challenges. One group collected hygiene kits for women's shelters. Another raised funds to repair a community playground. A middle school even started Kindness Fridays, where students performed random acts of good for their classmates. Within months, the movement had spread beyond the U.S. People from Canada, the UK, and even India were tagging Ripple Kindness, sharing their own stories of compassion. The teenagers watched in disbelief as their simple idea became something far bigger than they ever imagined. But behind all the attention, there were moments of doubt too. When one of their videos was criticized online as performative or fake, Jaden took it personally. "Maybe we should stop posting," he said. "People think we're just doing this for clout." Emma put a hand on his shoulder and said quietly, "We can't control what people say. We can only control what we do. If even one person feels inspired to do good, then it's worth it." Her words stuck. They pushed through, continuing their acts of kindness quietly, without fanfare. They visited hospitals with handmade cards for patients, volunteered at shelters, and organized a donation drive after a nearby town was hit by flooding. Each time they saw a smile, it reminded them why they started. Months later, their story reached national television. They were invited to a major morning show in New York. Sitting on the couch under bright studio lights, they were asked, "What made you believe kindness could go viral?" Emma smiled shyly and said, "Because negativity spreads fast online, but we wanted to prove kindness could, too." And it did. The host nodded, visibly moved. "You've started something beautiful," she said. "What's next for you all?" Lucas leaned in and said, "We're going to keep going. This isn't a project anymore, it's who we are." Their school, proud of what they had accomplished, decided to dedicate a permanent kindness wall in their honor, where students could post thank you notes and stories of good deeds. On the day of the unveiling, hundreds gathered in the school hallway. Teachers, parents, and students stood shoulder to shoulder as Emma stepped forward to speak. "When we started this," she said, her voice trembling slightly, "we didn't think anyone would notice. We just wanted to make people smile. But what we learned is that kindness doesn't need to be loud. It doesn't need to be perfect. It just needs to be real." There was silence and then applause. Some students wiped away tears. For many, that moment wasn't just about four teenagers. It was about the belief that change starts small, with ordinary people who simply decide to do good. Over time, the Ripple Kindness movement became a yearly tradition in schools across the country. Every February, students performed acts of kindness in their communities and shared them online, not for attention, but to remind the world that compassion is contagious. Years later, long after graduation, the four friends still stayed in touch. They'd gone off to college in different states, each pursuing different dreams: Emma in social work, Jaden in film, Mia in education, and Lucas in environmental science. But their bond remained strong. On the anniversary of their first kindness act, they reunited in their hometown. They met at the same coffee shop where it all began. The barista, now older but still cheerful, recognized them instantly. "You're the kindness kids," she exclaimed. They laughed, a wave of nostalgia washing over them. They ordered coffee and sat by the window, watching the world go by. Outside, they saw a group of younger teens handing out flowers to strangers, filming with their phones. Emma smiled. "Looks like it's still spreading." Jaden nodded. "We started something we couldn't even imagine." Lucas added softly, "Guess kindness really does go viral." The four clinked their coffee cups together, a quiet toast to a journey that had begun with one small act and grown into a global wave of goodness. As they sat there, reflecting on everything that had happened, Emma pulled out her phone and scrolled through old posts under Ripple Kindness. There were thousands of them now, people helping neighbors, donating food, rescuing animals, comforting strangers, and simply being there for one another. She smiled, tears forming in her eyes. "We didn't change the world," she said, "but we reminded it how good it could be." And maybe that was enough. Because sometimes, the greatest revolutions don't come from grand speeches or powerful leaders. They come from quiet hearts who choose kindness, one small act at a time. That day, as the sun set over their town, the four friends walked out of the coffee shop, their laughter echoing down the street. They didn't need cameras or applause. They already knew the truth. Kindness doesn't just change others, it changes you. And somewhere out there, another teenager was watching their old video for the first time, smiling and thinking, "Maybe I can do something too."